Hello everyone, my name is Young Falcon, and today I want to talk about Chrous, a brand new space action RPG for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC, along with their last generation counterparts. Shoutouts to the guys at DEEPSILVER and Fish Lab Studios for granting me a PS5 review copy of this game, and you guys will be seeing performance mode 60 FPS gameplay throughout this review. So without further ado, let's get straight into a little bit of the plot, and then I'll go into the pros and cons of what I liked and didn't like about Chrous. Alright, so first things first, you play as this ace pilot named Nara. She's out here maneuvering and taking out all sorts of galaxies and civilians because she works for an evil cult. Eventually, she learns this cult is quite awful after she erases some brainwashing techniques essentially and goes through a horrible, tragic event that makes her break away from the cult and start discovering life and figuring things out on her own. During that, she comes across a colony she grows really fond of, begins working with them, taking out various pirates and doing things to help bolster their ranks, and inevitably her past comes to haunt her because of some things that go down. It's up to you to pick up the sticks and fly around and figure out different memories and things to piece together her messed up past, along with, coming to grips with the type of person you are despite what the cult has done to you. It is a really intriguing plot, I will say that. I think the storyline and the way the main character interacts with all the characters and things is very interesting. Mainly her inner monologues, despite being a bit repetitive at points, definitely hit the nail on the head with just how intricate the world building and lore can go when it comes to Nara and the cult. As for the rest of the world, it's pretty much your standard sci-fi stuff. It's nothing too groundbreaking or crazy. All the stuff with the cult and what they're doing in the galaxy and how they're messing stuff up is really intriguing, but everyone else is just not that interesting nor fleshed out in my opinion. Even with some of the side quests that I found, a lot of characters just one note and or something tragic happens to them and they just kind of keep it pushing. It's not really for me. Overall, Nara and the personal stuff she goes through is really fascinating. As for the rest of the stuff and the side plots, not really it, if you will. But usually when you play games like this, you're not really in it for the story. And I mean, for me, I was already taken aback with the world building and environmental design, so I was perfectly fine just enjoying the gameplay. And thankfully, what really sells this game is the progression throughout the gameplay. You start off with a pretty basic machine gun, a pretty basic rocket launcher, and of course an okay ship, but just within a few moments of the game and being played, you unlock a beefier ship with lasers, rockets, and of course a buffed up machine gun, and you can further purchase more varieties of missile launchers, lasers, and machine gun upgrades throughout the hangars and stuff, as long as you acquire enough credits from side missions and whatnot, which I highly recommend you do, because later parts of the game can get quite tough if you want to mainline it. Regardless, the abilities you get throughout the game are really fun to mess around with. You get this drift ability, which makes you feel like a full-on X-Wing pilot. You get to snap around corners at breakneck speeds, whip around and do 180s as you take on an onslaught of foes. Of course, the game has a little bit of a rock, paper, scissors system when it comes to taking on enemies. Lasers beat shields, your missiles can be armored things, and then of course, you can finish them off with your machine guns. And it just never gets old swapping between all the weapons and doing everything you can in your power to dismantle entire fleets on your own. That's my favorite part of games like this. What makes it even more fun is the drift mechanic coupled with everything that we said and the big frigate battles where you're whipping around and taking all of their turrets down at once and systematically taking out power cells and then doing a borderline trench run through it as you dive through corners and destroy and dismantle their systems from the inside. That stuff is super fun, and it's really unique how open it feels, because it is an open world game. You see a distress signal, you can just fly over towards it. When you see big fights going on, you can just go there and help out. Sometimes a race will just occur and you can do some races with some people. Like, it's all really fun. So everything about the game and its emergent design really works out for me. On top of that, your character is always inner monologuing and saying what they have to say. So yeah, just the world building and the way you do your missions and get to the core moment-to-moment gameplay is really fun. On top of that, you have these rites of passages, if you will, /rites. These are abilities you get to use throughout the campaign that give you a plethora of unique abilities, and I won't spoil too many of the cooler ones, but I'll give you two that you get relatively early in the game. So the first one you get allows you to blink/teleport behind enemies. You literally get to press the circle button, teleport right behind them, and then pull up on them when they have their shields up and take them out systematically, or just zip around when you're in a tight spot. It's really fun to mess around with, and you can even go through walls in certain sections of the game, which is awesome. Then your second one you get is a shock rifle of sorts. It just completely disables shields, acts as an EMP, and you could do whatever you want to enemies to dismantle them. It is lots of fun. Like, I'm telling you, I cannot get over how cool it was to zip behind an enemy, dismantle them with a shock/EMP, and then completely disintegrate the opposition. Like, that was really great. The world and the environments have to be very well laid out and crafted, obviously, when it comes to space exploration titles, and here, thankfully, it's great. There's a wonderful mix of the open-ended space combat where you're flying through asteroid fields and debris and you're kind of dodging and maneuvering that, but there's also surprisingly a lot of close quarter segments which really test your drifting skills. And I will say, this is the one gripe I have with the game, is despite how fun it is to get the hang of drifting, it is still pretty finicky, and I found myself, at least in the close quarter sections, always bumping walls and bumping into things. There's like a part kind of late into the game I won't spoil, but I found myself having a really tough time getting through it because of how often I was slamming into walls rather than trying to take out enemies. Part of it is my own fault for getting buttons mixed up, and then the other part of it was just a little too claustrophobic for my taste. Despite that, it is still really fun to utilize this in combat, and I like how it's not afraid to throw the entire kitchen sink at you during sections and really make you test and swap between all your different abilities to dismantle the enemy forces. So overall, Chrous was pretty good when it comes to its gameplay, and its visual presentation is also outstanding. I love all the outer edge stuff they do with the UI, like when your character is getting frostbite and you see a cracked screen or whatnot, depending on what areas you're in and how much damage you're taking on. Like, that's pretty cool to me, and it just looks absolutely gorgeous and runs buttery smooth at 60 FPS. I experienced no drops, and it was a really fun time. I also absolutely adore its world and level design for the most part. It looks great. There's like an icy level that really stood out to me because it's like space ice and stuff, which I thought was just kind of cool to see. And there's some abandoned stations that feel kind of haunting, and there's these decrepit temples that you go through, and there's all sorts of really fun stuff that you get to mess around with that I thought just stood out to me. It felt very refreshing to play a game like this, is what I'm getting at. So overall, Chrous was a game that I only experienced minor gripes with. One, its story just wasn't that interesting to me. Two, I had a couple of bugs and crashes happen, like getting stuck in a wall once because I boosted into it by accident. And then the other one was just the game crashing at a very pivotal moment, and the autosave, which is my final gripe, were all over the place. Some of them would set you back really far, or some of them wouldn't set you in the missions you were just doing, and you couldn't even save during a mission. So if you hit a checkpoint and you want to save and take a break or whatnot because it's a little too much, you can't really do that, and it said you have to finish that mission or else you're gonna restart everything, which is a tad annoying. Despite that, those tiny gripes, it was a really fun experience, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what else these developers / if Chrous will get a sequel can do in the future, because I think this game has a lot of potential, especially with the permadeath mode they added. That I feel like this could be a roguelike in a lot of ways. Like, if they scale things down a little bit and go for a more structured design, kind of like the Everspace games, I think that would really pan out and make this awesome. That's going to do it for the Chrous review, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and I wish you all the best. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below, as it means a lot and helps my content go a long way. And on top of that, I wish you all the best. I'll see you guys next time, and peace.